I switched from the iPhone 13 mini, the smallest iPhone from 3 years ago, up to the iPhone 16 Pro. I wanted to share my experience jumping from a small form factor up to a larger screen. What tech improvements have come over the last 3 years of iPhones, and is it worth upgrading this year? Let's talk about it. Hey, it's Dan from the future. If you've watched this channel before, then you know that I test a lot of phones, and specifically what it's like to go from one phone to another one. Sometimes that was the Pro Max down to the 13 mini. Earlier this year, it was the Pro Max to the Pro. But while I get a lot of comments saying that this is clickbait, it's actually answering a very specific question. With a comparison to the largest phone, it's, do you really need the latest tech? Or does the bigger screen even really do anything different? And now fast forward to today, where I've been using the 16 Pro for about 3 months. Spoiler alert, it's going great. But when it's something like this, the mini to the 16 Pro, the question is really, is it time for an upgrade? So stay tuned for more. I just wanted to address why I'm actually doing this video. So the iPhone 13 mini, the mighty powerhouse, smallest iPhone that you can buy. In my opinion, this is the best iPhone that ever existed, and the one that Apple forgot about. It's all the fundamentals and the best parts of an iPhone packed down to just a 5.4-inch screen that's both extremely light and portable, but also easy to use one-handed. And as someone who's tested the latest tech year after year and had multiple Pro Max iPhones, you come to realize that the 13 mini is special because it can just do about everything that these phones can do in a smaller size. Fit all the same number of icons on the home screen, just with less space between them. Fit a majority of the same content on screen. Browse the web with a full screen display that looks incredible. Take advantage of cameras that are still great today, but with the added benefit of taking pictures with one hand. It's very much the same iPhone experience as a larger iPhone, maybe with the trade-off of smaller buttons and then icons. So if all of this is true and the iPhone 13 mini is the best iPhone that Apple ever created, then why am I switching? Why am I making this video? And the answer to that is, I don't want to. Like a lot of people, I still love my 13 mini today, but the fact is the iPhone 13 mini is getting old. It's now 3 years old, the battery is starting to age, barely lasting all day, the screen is just 60 Hz where we now have 120 Hz displays that look great. You know, it's a great phone for the day-to-day, but if you compare it to a more modern iPhone, especially with cameras, screen, and battery life, you start to see that it's quickly falling behind. And I'm constantly in the comments of these videos, and I see that desire for a newer 13 mini, but with a Pro camera system. So if you're like me and you want something newer, more up-to-date, with a much better camera system, but the most portable form factor that you can get, then the reasonable next step is the iPhone 16 Pro. So this is the iPhone 16 Pro, and where the 13 mini is this older, dated iPhone, the 16 Pro is possibly the solution. You're getting a new Pro camera system, a brighter 120 Hz ProMotion display, the newer camera control button, and the action button, even with USB-C. All in all, for the first time, this is all of the tech in the Pro Max series brought to a smaller form factor in the 6.3-inch Pro. Sure, it's still an adjustment moving from the 5.4-inch mini to the 6.3-inch Pro, but for a lot of people, this move is going to be worth it. So let's start with the first thing that you see on this phone, the screen. Where the mini had a great full screen display, the Pro is even bigger and even brighter. This year we're getting a 6.3-inch display that packs in extremely narrow bezels that almost disappear along the edges. The display goes way, way brighter than what the mini was capable of. Like, you can use this thing in daylight, no problem, and you'll always be able to see what's on screen. But then you start to use it and you really see the difference between that older 60 Hz display and then 120 Hz display. A lot of people don't know what any of this means. It essentially is that it can refresh twice as fast, meaning that when you scroll, it feels a lot snappier. Just swiping between home pages or scrolling through web pages, it just feels incredibly smooth. I think even if people don't know what the difference is, they'll feel the difference here. It all just feels incredibly responsive. So then you get to the second point that everybody wants on a new mini, the cameras. Well, the Pro for the first time is getting the same upgrades as the Pro Max. And I'm really excited that Apple made this move this year. It's sort of like they're saying you don't need to get a massive phone to get the latest tech. And I think that's a really exciting direction for Apple. Well, if you're making this move, you're jumping from dual 12 megapixel cameras up to dual 48 megapixel cameras on the main and ultra wide cameras, plus the addition of a telephoto lens that goes up to 5 times optical zoom at that same quality, looking great for close-ups, or up to 25 times zoom, which means it's digital zoom, which means it's stretching the photo, which leads to more distortion and probably something you just won't use. And in my testing, the clarity of these photos are just unmatched. It's incredible. Usually I say that night photography is the biggest change year over year, but I really find that even photos in daylight have this new level of sharpness and detail that I never could have captured on the Mini. So now let's talk about battery life. This is the part that surprised me here. Apple quotes 27 hours of video playback and 85 hours of audio playback. And I've got to say, that's not true. So I use my phone often throughout the day, switching between apps constantly, talking on the phone, scrolling social, responding to social media. And what I've found is that this battery is definitely down to at least 20% by the end of the day. Let's say 14 to 16 hours, pushing up to 20 if I really needed it. That's more than what I had on my Mini, where I intentionally used it less and found that I was down to my last 5% at the end of each day. But it's definitely less of an improvement than I expected, going up 3 years. I've got to say that even with all of these efficiencies, there's a lot of new tech, a faster and brighter screen, and a lot more to power, leading to less battery improvement than you might expect. It's still good, don't get me wrong. It's still all-day battery life, but it's not multi-day battery life like we've seen on some of the Pro Max phones previously. So I think the largest question that people have these days is about the form factor. What's it like to jump from a 5.4-inch screen in this ultra-portable form factor now up to a 6.3-inch Pro Series phone? Well, it's larger. I can't sit here and say it's completely usable one-handed, but the fact is it's still relatively light, and the thin bezels make it easier to hold and easy to adjust and reach to the sides, unlike on that Pro Max. I can still use this phone one-handed. I can still type either single-handed or two-handed. It's sort of this nice middle ground between the idea of the perfect 5.4-inch screen with the tech of a Pro Max, but in a lot more manageable of a size than the Pro Max. So overall, this test moving from the iPhone 16 Pro has been successful. I've really enjoyed using this phone, and I am ready to use it as my primary phone for this year. But it still leaves something to be desired for a future Mini. Seeing that Apple just added the tech from the Pro Max down to a smaller phone, will that be a trend that continues, and will we ever see another Mini? Well, so far there's no plans for a new Mini. All rumors are pointing to the new iPhone SE that's coming soon, and that'll have a smaller form factor like an iPhone 14. That means a larger screen than a Mini, with more up-to-date features similar to the iPhone 15 or 16. And while I think that could be a great phone, I still wonder if the trade-off of those Pro Series features that you could get now are worth waiting for. If you're like me and you really appreciate everything that the iPhone 13 mini stood for, but you're craving updated tech like a Pro Series camera system, a brighter, more vibrant 120Hz display, a better battery life, I think at this point the iPhone 16 Pro is the best upgrade if you need to upgrade this year. But if you want to see another video comparing the 13 mini to another phone from the 16 lineup, or you have long-term questions about what it's like to do this switch, let me know that down in the comments. Also, let me know if you're switching this year, and if you are, what phone are you going for that upgrade? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.